Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my quarterly series wrap up and TBR. I love filming these videos, I love watching other people do these videos. I just love talking about series. So right now today we're going to dive into the series that I finished and continued in the months of April, May and June, as well as the series that I started in that time, and then look to the future and look at the plans. Looking at the piles around me is looking a little bit unrealistic. The plans, the expectations that I have for myself is bigger than the piles of books that I managed to read in the last 3 months. And in theory, you'd think that the piles should be of a similar size because that's an estimate of how much I can read. But no, I've gone and put, there's so many books over here, there's so many books over on this side of the screen. Anyway, I didn't do very well with finishing series in this quarter, the same as the first quarter of the year. It's been a little bit of a slow start to finishing any series, really. So I think in the first quarter, I just finished Mistborn Era 2 by reading The Lost Metal. And then in this quarter, when I had all these goals, I had all these expectations for myself that I was going to finish series, and I just didn't. I continued doing a few things, but I didn't really finish things, apart from deciding that I wasn't going to finish The Blood Gift, which is the second book in the Blood Trials duology. So I got most of the way through The Blood Gift. I was listening to the audiobook. I got maybe 75% of the way through, and then decided that I had lost interest, that I wasn't going to continue. I went away on holiday. It had been like 2-3 weeks since I'd last listened to it, and I was like, I don't have the desire to pick it back up again. So I put the series down. I feel as though this series has the bones of a good series, but unfortunately it should have been a trilogy and not a duology, and so the pacing in it is just quite messed up. But I think I'll keep the first book because I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars, but just gave up at the end of the second book. So this series is now done. And then onto the series that I continued in, because I definitely did work on some series that I did the work. I continued in quite a few things, but I just didn't finish things, and that's fine. Hopefully that just means that now in the July, August, September quarter I will finish off the things, because I have put in some of the groundwork. I have quite a few series that I am rereading this year, or like rereading so that I'm able to finish them off. So I did start my reread of Chain of Gold, and I read Chain of Iron. This one was for the first time, so I did make it 2/3 of the way through this series. This is the latest series in the Shadowhunter universe by Cassandra Clare. There are multiple series in this world, starting off with the Mortal Instruments and City of Bones, or you could also start with the Clockwork Angel series, which follows the parents of those in this series, sort of set in the early 1900s in London. This is a very enjoyable, quite angsty time, and I did manage to, yes, do this reread and then continue to the second one. I then was like, I need a little break from this, because I think I read these both in April. I was like, I need a little break because there's only so much like angsty YA that I can take in my life. I'm proud of myself for starting that reread and continuing with it. Other series that I continued in the From Blood and Ash series by reading The War of Two Queens. The Disappointment of Two Queens. Yeah, I think this series might be DNF'd now. I've really tried to keep going with it. I've really tried. It's disappointing, but I haven't quite moved it off of my ongoing series just yet. It's not quite, I've not quite brave moving it. I did read this. I'm not quite up to date yet because I haven't read the second book in the prequel series. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I can keep going with the prequel series, but because I did really enjoy the first book in that prequel series. But yes, this one is up to date. This fantasy romance that is just not really leaning on anything right now. It's just leaning on way too many words. I did read the second book in the Ninth Reign series by reading The Bitter Twins by Jen Williams. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the first book, which I read at the end of 2022. I think it was a long time coming. We get into the sequel, finally did it. It was enjoyable. It did have, I think, a couple of instances of middle book syndrome, but it was still really enjoyable, even with like the sort of side quests I'd say that the characters went on, but still a really enjoyable time with this one. And obviously, if you want any of my full thoughts on any of these books that I have read, then I will link all of my wrap-ups as well for the last 3 months. So you can go and watch those to hear my full thoughts on them. And then the final series that I continued in was the Blood Grace series by Bella Roth. I read the first book, Blood Mercy, in the first quarter, and I continued and read Blood Solace, the second book, in maybe it was April, maybe it was May. Again, enjoyed this one. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the first one because I felt as though the pacing again was a little bit weird in this one. That the peak was in like the middle of the book and the beginning and the end were a little bit slow. I did continue with this series as well. Again, this one, another fantasy romance series. I have been leaning into the fantasy romance a little bit this year. I've been really enjoying that fantasy with a romantic subplot time this year. As well, I also continued in the Slight Changeling series and I read 2 more books in the Slight Changeling series, which now brings me up to, I think I'm on book number 5. I think that's the latest one I finished, was the 5th one. So I've now read a few of those. Those are all of the series that I have finished and continued in. So that comes to 6 series that I worked on, that I had previously started before this quarter and have worked on this quarter. Hopefully I can finish off a few more in the next quarter. Hopefully that will happen because I would really like to get my series number down now. It's got a bit too big. Some things that I started then in this quarter. I don't think I did too badly with the series that I started. I think there's just a couple of them. So I did start The First Law by Joe Abercrombie and I read the first book and then I also continued and I read the second book, Before They Are Hanged. So I started and made progress in and will hope to finish this in the next quarter. I was about to say in July, but that might be a little bit ambitious considering that I'm filming this on the 20-something of July and I haven't picked up the third book just yet. But this one was on the plans for this quarter and I did stick to the plans and I did start this series. So that is a positive. That it is, although it brings a new series into the mix, it was in the plans. It was in the plans. And I am enjoying this one. So positives all around here. Another series, and this one I am currently up to date on. I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, the first book in the Fourth Wing series. I think this is now meant to be like a 5-book series. This book's out, second book comes out in October, November time. So quite a quick turnaround. I enjoyed this. I don't think I loved it as much as like everybody else has loved it. Like it was a 4-star fine. It was fun. It was a fun time. So enjoyable first book in a series. I definitely will continue with the second book. And then if that book like continues to stick the landing for me as a fun time, then I'll keep going. But if it doesn't stick the landing, then I might not. If you get what I mean, because I'm very picky, I think, with like the fantasy romance. And when a romantic pairing get together in the first book of a 5-book series, like how you've got to be able to maintain my interest. And are you going to be able to maintain my interest? I don't know. But for now, I read this and I enjoyed it. And then the other series that I started and continued in this quarter was The Serpent and the Wings of Night, the Crowns of Ningxia series by Carissa Broadbent. So I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, the first book. I read the novella Six Scorched Roses, and I read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. So this is a 6-book series but made up of duologies. So technically I did finish this first duology, that is now done, but I'm not counting it as like done. I'm counting it as a 6-book series because I know that although we will not be following these characters in the rest of the series, we are still going to be continuing in that world. I wouldn't say that I'm quite up to date with this as yet, as I do have a standalone that's also set in this world. So once I've read that, then I would count this as up to date. But for now, this is what I read. I really thoroughly enjoyed this one and absolutely raved about it in my June wrap up because I binged this all like pretty much back to back. This was a success. So those are all of the books that I read in April, May, June that counted towards my series, whether they were continuations, finishes, or starts of new series. And now we're going to look at the plans. We're going to look to this side of the room. We've moved away from this side. Now we're going over here to all the ones that I think I'm going to be able to start and be able to work my way through. Firstly, I'll talk about some of the ones that I hope to finish, and then we'll move into potentially new series that I'm going to bring into the mix. I do want to say though as well that I know I berate myself some of the time for not finishing series. I did do very well with my ambitions from the last quarter, so I did rewatch my video and actually I managed to do 8 out of the 9 things that I had planned from last time. That I started the series that I wanted to start, I worked on some of the series that I wanted to work on. So although I didn't finish things, I did do a lot. I did do what I said I was going to do, which for someone who is not really a TBR person, I think that's pretty good, because my plans for last time was to read The Last Hours, so I read 2 books in that. Bone Child War, which is the one I didn't do. I read The War of Two Queens, I read The Bitter Twins, I read The Blood Gift, I continued in Blood Mercy, I did continue with the Side Changeling series, I did start First Law, and I did start The Forgetting Moon before the end of June. I did do a lot of those plans, which I am quite proud of myself for. So hopefully I will have that same success rate going into the next quarter. So as I already said, I am filming this on the 21st of July. So I am already quite a few days into this quarter, and I have been already making some progress. So we will just gloss over that a little bit. I haven't been making much progress because my reading's been a little bit slow, but I have also been reading chunky books, so there is that. So I do have quite a few series that I want to be able to finish this quarter. I really do. The first of these being The Last Hours. I want to be able to finish Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, finish off this series. This is definitely going to be happening because look where I am in it. I have been reading this month. It will be done. It will be done. I have slowed down a little bit this past week because I've been very, very busy, but Chain of Thorns and this series will definitely be finished this quarter. It definitely will. But yes, that's the start of my series that will definitely be finished. Other series that I would like to finish this quarter, I would like to be able to finish the Ninth Reign trilogy. I just have the Poison Song left. This will be hopefully finished as well this quarter, because yeah, just one more book to go, and then this one can also be wrapped up, and I have really been enjoying my time with it. For me, I'd say it's been like a 4-star series so far, and so I really hope this one sticks the landing. And then another series that I want to be able to finish that I was working on in the last quarter is the First Law. I just have The Last Argument of Kings to read. This I feel like might be my next read. Once I finish Chain of Thorns, I think I might dive into this one and just continue reading the chunkiest of chunky books. I might need something short in between because I've really just been reading like 600-700 page books this month, and it's getting a little bit long, and I feel like I might need something shorter. And then I'll dive into this in the hope that I can finish this before the end of the month. Fingers crossed. And here it is, making its second appearance. I have the Bone Child War, which I did mention in April. I did want to get to it in this last quarter. It didn't happen. I think it's because I need to read like a summary of the first 2 books just to make sure that I am fully refreshed with it. I'm already working my way through quite a few rereads and rereading quite a few series to finish them off. And for this series, although I've really enjoyed it, I don't feel as though I've enjoyed it enough to be able to want to reread. I just need to refresh myself somehow or other with the first 2 books and then dive into this one. I think as well, I've seen some like glowing reviews for this. I've seen some mixed reviews. I've seen some less stellar reviews. So it's just making sure my expectations are right when I dive into this one. But I do really want to finish this off as well. And that would mean once I've read all 4 of these, but I just have the final book left, that'd be 4 the whole series finished off. 4 whole series finished off, and I just need to read these books. Like, I will feel so accomplished. I will feel so accomplished. I know I will. I mean, I think I'll feel accomplished when I finish Chain of Thorns, and I know that's going to happen like very, very soon. And then I'll be down a series. And I haven't really been finishing that many series this year. So once I get all of these done, I'll be a whole new woman. I then have a couple of continuations that I could read. So I do have Lore Olympus Volume 3 now. Part of me is thinking that I might end up reading this one in between Chain of Thorns and Last Argument of Kings, because I'll be able to race through it as it's a graphic novel, and I'll also be having that feeling of accomplishment because it will be still continuing on with the series. There are, I don't know if there's 4 or 5 books now published in this series. I've only read the first 2. I've recently just got the 3rd one for my birthday, so I can now read this one, and I'll still have, not quite up to date, but continuing on with. As I mentioned, for the Crowns of Ningxia series, I do have the standalone to read, so Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and then once I've read this, I will be fully up to date with that world. Anticipating the next one. I think that might not be until maybe sometime next year. I don't think it's been written at all yet, so it'll be waiting a little while. If I can get up to date, that's still a positive for me, like I can get up to date with something. But I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've just been telling myself I need to finish off some other series first, and then I can get to this one, maybe in August. I think August. And then I would like to be able to read the third book, parts 1 and 2 of Blood Sanctuary by Vela Roth. I think it got split because of the length. There's part 1 and part 2 of book 3. I am participating in Becca's book club for this series, so we were meant to have read these 2 books over June and July, and it's now the end of July and I haven't done it, but hopefully I can be able to get these both done in this quarter, because in theory I think we're meant to also be reading the 4th book in this quarter as well. In August and September I think is marked for the 4th book, so I do need to get to both of these. I did start this one in June and I got like 50 pages in, but then I was just really not in the mood. I really wanted something grittier, so that's when I picked up Before They Are Hanged. So a very different vibe than a fantasy romance, so I do just need to refine this mood and get back into this. And then I do have some rereads, so I have quite a few series that the final book is getting published, and I'd like to be able to reread them in anticipation for that 3rd book, although for quite a few of these I've fallen behind and I won't have them finished before that 3rd book comes out. So I did have The Forgetting Moon as a series to reread to get to the 3rd book. The 3rd book came out in November, so I have not been able to do the reread in anticipation with this one, but this one I have now reread, so that has been done. I do need to reread the 2nd one, The Blackest Heart, but I feel as though I might need a little break, I think, for that. Maybe I'll do that in like September time. That I'd still do it in this quarter, but not straight away. So I think that will be, towards the end of the quarter I can get to The Blackest Heart, and then I can get to the next one. I am also currently rereading The Master of Mirrors in anticipation for The Liar's Knot, which comes out in August. I do not believe I will be able to reread all of this and read The Liar's Knot in time for Labyrinth's Heart to come out. I don't think that's quite going to be possible now. I think I've cut it a bit too fine. Although we'll see. I am listening to the audiobook of this. It is, I guess, a different mode of reading to my physical reading, and a lot of the series that I want to finish I'm going to physically read, but because this is a reread I am going the audiobook route, and that's going very, very well. So I only started this week, a couple of days ago, and I have been racing through my reread, like absolutely racing through it with this audiobook. I've been doing a jigsaw puzzle as well. I've been going out I've been running, like it's been with me. It's a big audiobook because it's like 600 and something pages, and I think this one is as well. We'll see if I get there in time, but in theory this is another series that I want to be able to finish off in this quarter. I am in the reread section right now, and then hopefully I'll be able to get to the end of this series as well, and I am loving my reread. I'm really, really loving my reread of this. This one again is another series I hope to finish this quarter. I've got big plans, the big plans of all these series that I'm going to finish. And then the final series that I am rereading in anticipation to finish it is the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. I read this one, I read Starsight, the 2nd book, but I have yet to read the novellas or Cytonic. And I know that the 4th book is coming out in November, so my plan is to read a book a month. So lots of rereads, lots and lots of rereads so that I can finish off series. That is the plan. I do enjoy rereading, and I mean, I'm absolutely loving this one, loving this reread. And if that wasn't enough, there are a couple of things that I would like to be able to start. I feel as though most of my time, or my series time, is going to be doing all of that. Like, that is a lot. That is a lot. That is a lot of things to be able to like juggle. A lot of series to juggle there. But I'm really hoping that when we get to the next quarterly wrap up, I will be able to say that I achieved it all. The couple of things that I want to start, I have mentioned it before, but I do want to start Fireborn and read this series. This is in the plans. This is in the plans. It's in my like series to start before the end of 2023, and this is the one that I'm planning on working on in this quarter. I'll probably have to do a little speed up if I'm going to get to those series that I want to start before the end of the year, because there are a few in there. And then one little surprise is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, Sam, Fish and I are planning to buddy read this in August. We intend to start this series and see how it goes. I think all three of us have had this on our TBR for a little while, and this gives us the excuse to read it. I think we were looking at our like books that we had, books that we all owned, and this was one that we all collectively owned and then we'd all collectively had for a little while, and so it won. It rose to the top of our TBR pile, so we are going to be reading this one together next month. There we go. Those are the series that I have worked on in the last quarter and some of my plans for the next quarter. Does anything align with any of your plans? Are you planning to read any of these or work on any of the same series as I am? And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!